This now, CNN political commentator Shermichael Singleton, Republican strategist, and Paul Begala, Democratic strategist. Harold, if you can stay at the wall for a second, or Vanna White over there, if you can put the tariff approval numbers back up and the change over time.
We can do that, Mr. Berman. Here
so,
we
Paul,
go.
There's been a big rollout. The president had a big rollout of his tariff plan. He called it Liberation Day.
Right.
Yet, approval going down, opposition going up. What does that tell you about the messaging on the tariffs?
Well, it's the substance, not the messaging.
Okay.
Like the Titanic didn't have a messaging problem, it had an iceberg problem. People just don't want to see their life savings squandered by this guy, by Mr. Trump. $11 trillion in 11 weeks. Okay? He's got about 197 weeks to go. So do the math. It's a reality problem. And these numbers are translating into elections. Okay, yeah, Harry's right. Trump's economic numbers underwater, which is a catastrophe for him. But more immediately, Republicans on the Hill own this because there's a movement going with Democrats and increasingly a couple of Republicans to claw back the power that the Constitution gave to the Congress to control these tariffs, not to Trump. So every Republican is going to have to vote or declare, I want to take back away from Trump this power of the tariff. And I think Democrats have a huge advantage on that.
You know, Shermichael, it's interesting because over on Fox, they're even noting that Republican donors are freaking the F out about this. Those were their words. Bill Ackman saying our stock market's down, bond yields are up, the dollar's declining. These are not the markers of successful policy. What starts happening if the donors start freaking out, if the base starts freaking out, if members of Congress start freaking out?
Well, look, I'm not worried about the donors. They're some of the wealthiest people in the country. And a part of the issue, at least that I have with free trade in general, and I've written about this over the years, I don't share the belief of many of my fellow Republicans that free trade is this great benevolent thing. I think you need some level of it. But I also recognize the negative impacts of free trade. I mean, over the past 2.5, 3 decades, give or take, the top wealthiest people in this country have seen their income increase significantly, while everybody else in the middle and the bottom end have seen their numbers decrease. They've gotten poor. Their ability to pay for and afford more things, that hasn't increased. It's gotten worse. And so I think the president needs to be strategic in his methodology here. Let's level set. We have too many trade deficits. Let's figure out how to do that. A lot of countries are now starting to say, hey, we want to negotiate. You need to immediately begin that process. As it pertains to China, who, by the way, we are their #1 trading partner. They steal our intellectual property. There is no recourse for American companies. They build a significant portion of the things that we buy in this country. I don't believe personally that that is a good thing, to be so reliant and beholden to an adversary where if we ever got into a conflict with them, they don't have to ship us anything. And so I do believe that there is some argument for the president to take to, again, make trade fair for the United States and our trading partners. But I think you've got to be more strategic. I would agree that at some point, even Republicans in the base are going to say, okay, Mr. President, we're with you, but we can only feel the pain for so long. And so I think the onus is on the president there to communicate that to the American people. You know,
some in the base and some in Congress and some investors have been saying, make a deal with somebody. Announce a deal with somebody. And, Paul, it is a bit of a mystery why the White House hasn't come forward with one of these deals yet. They say that some 70 countries are coming to them. But if they did, if they came today and said, you know what, South Korea is here. We have this deal. Japan is here. We have this deal. Would that be a success?
Well, it would be good, right? We don't want a trade war. But here's the problem Mr. Trump has. One of the few things he did in his first presidency that was great was the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the USMCA. He just updated NAFTA, made it a more modern, better deal to help create this North American common market that we have. And now he's blown it up. His own trade deal. It's like, dude, who do you think negotiated the Trump USMCA? So who would make a deal with a guy? They're going to have to, okay? But who wants to sit down and make a deal with a guy who can't keep his word? When he gave his word to the Canadians, gave his word to the Mexicans. By the way, one of the only countries he's not slapping new tariffs on, Russia. So he's attacking our best customers, as Shermichael said. You know, Canada and Mexico together buy from us almost $1 trillion worth of stuff. Russia, $3 billion. Actually, no, $500 million. $500 million from Russia. But they get an escape, and our friends get punished. And there's something going on here that I don't understand.
Shermichael, I keep trying to look at stock futures right now. In the screen, my eyes, my aging eyes. There we go. So the S&P down 1.96%. If the market closes at that today, and it was a long way to go. I mean, these are just futures. The market's got to open. But if it closes like the futures are pointing right now, that would be bear market territory. So talk to me about what you think the right messaging is from the Trump White House if the markets close in a bear market, 20% drop from the high.
Yeah, look, the markets like stability. If you're a CEO, you have a board, you have investors, they want to be able to know what are the projections for Q2 going into Q3. It's really difficult to make those projections when there's a trade war essentially going on. And so I think if I were the president, before I began this process, I probably would have focused on some of those corporate tax cuts. That would have been beneficial. I would have brought in all of those CEOs and said, hey, I'm preparing to do this. Go back to your boards and your major investors and tell them start putting some to the side. Be prepared for about 60 days, because that's what I think it's going to take to really get the type of agreements that I want. And that way you're bringing the CEOs, you're bringing these corporations on with you so that they know, okay, that there's stability here. The president's being specific with what he's trying to target in terms of key imports and versus just imports all over the place. So we're going to stick with the president for about 60 days or so to allow him to bring to fruition what his plans are. I think if the president would have gone in that route, John, I don't think the market would have reacted as negatively as it has.
Yeah. Well, that's about 10,000 points ago. You're wishing on that, sure, Michael. Very quickly, about 30 seconds, Paul. Elon Musk and Peter Navarro are going after each other. I mean, Elon Musk is just relentless about Peter Navarro. Elon Musk doesn't seem to like these tariffs, and he calls Peter Navarro, who does. He says Navarro is truly a moron. Navarro is dumber than a sack of bricks. I'm just reading tweets here from Elon Musk. This is me. And then he says, I'd like to apologize to Bricks. For calling Peter Navarro. But what message does that convey to the American people?
Well, to the American people, it's more chaos. And sure, Michael's right. Businesses, families, we want some stability. That said, Robin is racing. I actually don't mind advisors fighting. I don't like either of these guys. I don't know them, but I'm sure I wouldn't like them if I did. But that's fine. I think we need to focus on the organ grinder, not the monkeys. Okay, the monkeys are fighting, but the organ grinder is Donald Trump. This is not a lightning strike that caused your house to catch on fire. It's arson. Donald Trump is climbing out there on the roof with gasoline and matches, and he's setting us on fire. And today it's the stock market. Very soon it will be the supermarket. And everything that we drink or eat or drive or wear, costs are going to go up. And the very people who voted for Mr. Trump are the ones who are being betrayed by this.
Paul Begala, Michael Sandlin, great to see you both this morning. Thanks so much for the discussion. Kate?